The green rush is real. From lawmakers and investment bankers to CEOs and investors, we'll look at how people are transforming cannabis from the shadows of the black market into a cash crop that draws in cannapreneurs from Hollywood to Wall Street. Here to help you navigate the business of cannabis, please welcome Louis Goldberg and Ann Donahoe. Brought to you by KCSA Strategic Communications.
Welcome to The Green Rush. I'm Louis Goldberg and joined, as always, by Ann Donahoe, the hostess with the mostess, and I've now lost count of how many times that is. Before we get into it, Ann and I wanted to let our listeners know that now that there are thousands and thousands of you who are listening to our little show every week, we really appreciate it. We don't take it for granted. When we started this about 4 or 5 months ago, we hoped to get a couple thousand people listening in. And now that we're getting feedback and people are listening, it really means a lot to us. Ann and I get a lot out of these chats with the people that we're talking with. And while she and I work in the cannabis space, every time we talk to somebody on this show, we all learn a little bit, and we hope that you're getting as much out of this as we are. And now that we're in our 20th or 25th episode, you know that Ann and I usually talk with legislators or stock analysts or CEOs, but today on The Green Rush, we're joined by an NBA legend and a cannabis CEO, Al Harrington. If you're not a sports fanatic, then you may not be familiar with Al, but if you are, you know that Baby Al, or Buckets, played in the NBA for nearly 2 decades. Drafted directly out of high school in the first round by the Indiana Pacers, and I'm a Knicks fan, so it hurts for me to say this, but you did play for the Knicks. Al played for 7 different NBA teams, not counting 2 stints with the Pacers. And while he was in the league, he averaged more than 13 points a game and nearly 6 assists, so the guy could shoot it and dish it. He was not only a beast on the court, Al was one of the most respected players in the league, and he posted up against some of the greatest players to ever play in the NBA. But as much as we would love to talk with Al about sports, we are here to talk with him about cannabis, because his cannabis story is truly an interesting one. Growing up in Orange, New Jersey, Al saw many of his friends and neighborhood kids harassed and often arrested by the police for nonviolent marijuana crimes. Having never used during his professional career, Al's grandmother, Viola, became the inspiration for his cannabis company, which is Viola Extracts. Unlike many other professional athletes, Al always had his eye on what was next after his career ended. He knew that he was not going to play until he was 60, so he had to figure out what to do in his life. He's become one of the most vocal advocates for medicinal cannabis in the country, and Al is working with the NBA to allow players to use cannabis medicinally. He even got David Stern, the former commissioner of the NBA, to come out and officially support medical marijuana. Well done, Al. And most importantly, thank you for taking time out today to talk with us.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this, and, being an advocate, being able to continue to speak to people and continue to educate them and just let them know how amazing this plant we call cannabis is.
It really is. So not that long ago, Deputy Commissioner of the NBA, Mike Bass, gave a statement to USA that said, while current Commissioner Adam Silver has said that we are interested in better understanding the safety and efficacy of medical marijuana, our position remains unchanged regarding the use by current NBA players of marijuana for recreational purposes. So you were in the league for a long time, 16 years, and you knew the incidents of use amongst the players, the coaches. When do you think that the NBA will adopt rules to reflect state and local laws for use of medicinal marijuana by its players?
I think that it'll happen once they get more information from doctors. You know what I'm saying? And that's the reason why I always, preach the fact that we need more testing. We need the government to open up the funds so that we can start testing and realizing, so that they can realize, or the world can realize, how special this plant does. It just gives people in general an alternative way to medicate themselves. And I just think it's something that needs to be looked at, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of players, and I was one of those guys that, took pharmaceutical drugs for, years and years and years. And at the end of the day, I have no idea how that's going to impact my body long term. But if I knew that cannabis could help alleviate some of these issues, and when that is an all natural option, I definitely probably would have tried that.
So 16 of the league's teams play in states that allow either medical cannabis or adult use. And that's really the majority of the NBA teams, players and actual games where they're played, in states where it's legal. What do the owners of these teams tend to fall on the use of cannabis, either by their players or coaches or themselves? Is this something that they're talking about, or they're just waiting for the league to kind of, or to take their their view from whatever the league tells them?
I think especially with some of the younger owners, I think they're definitely open to it. I almost feel, and I can't speak with, I can't say matter of factly, but I think a lot of the owners actually use cannabis themselves for different issues, so it's just one of those things where like it's perception's everything. And I mean, that's the one thing that I hate about our country. You go to abroad, a lot of people are allowed to be themselves, but here we're just always so conscious of our image and different things like that. So no one's going to be the first person to jump out there and say we actually support that, because they're so afraid of the backlash. But, if when I really think about it, I really feel that, a lot of these owners are already using, if they're not using, family members are using medicinally. And they know that there are some healing properties to this plant that, players should be having access to, but they just can't get around the fact that they just feel that fans would think that as soon as they okayed it, that as soon as a guy has a bad game, the first thing they're going to go to is he must have been sitting on his couch with a bong last night all night. And that's why, he can't play at a high level. And, that just brings me to, you think about liquor and alcohol, and we know how bad liquor is for us. We know that liquor, there's not one positive thing about drinking liquor. And at the end of the day, you go to any NBA arena and there's signage, there's on the billboards, there's the teleprompter, everything promoting all these liquor companies. And we know the fact that, liquor not only kills your body health-wise, but it also puts drunk drivers behind, steering wheels and killing innocent people constantly. So, it's just one of those things where just people need just to be more educated. And I think they will then realize that, cannabis is definitely a viable option to help keep these players healthy and, playing at a super high level.
And playing for longer, right?
And playing for longer. Yeah, definitely playing longer. I feel that if I was able to use cannabis in, not just, and when I talk about that, it's not about just sitting smoking, because, I don't, believe it or not, I don't even smoke weed every day, but the fact that, I use CBD hemp products where, I take 100 to 150 milligrams of CBD every day, that to me is like healing my body from within. And it allows me to be able to cope, give me a better quality of life, instead of me taking the Celebrex and all the other stuff that I was taking, for 9.5 years just to be able to go out there and compete at a high level. And even with my knee, I've actually made a pain cream that, it's a pain relief cream, but for me, it actually healed my knee, because the reason why I retired is because I couldn't get this fluid out of my knee. And I was bone on bone, so I was just in so much pain. But now that I use this cream literally every day, I mean, I have no more inflammation in my knee, and I have no pain. So I feel like I could go play in the NBA today.
I actually sent your Players Tribute article to, I know 2 people who really struggle with rheumatoid arthritis, and I know they've been on and off Celebrex. And so that, for whatever reason, that drug rang a bell, and I forwarded it to them, and said, have your doctors ever explored this? So, from a personal standpoint, I appreciated that, because I know that they don't like taking those drugs.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm sorry, you're literally the biggest player in the cannabis space at 6'9" and more than 240 pounds, dude. You're not small, but you're also one of the few cannapreneurs of color. Why do you think there are, so few African Americans or Latinos or Asians who are owning cannabis companies?
Well, I mean, where do I start with that? Number one, let's just start with first the fact that a lot of minorities are just afraid, because they've seen the war on drugs. They've grown up in it. They've seen their parents experience. They've experienced it. So for a lot of them, they can't even grasp the fact that they could actually go and really grow marijuana legally. They're just scared. That's, the start there, because they're just terrified from all the things that they've seen, coming up. But the second thing, which is probably more important than the first, is that a lot of times we just don't have access to capital. You just don't have the access to capital, because at the end of the day, every year is becoming more and more expensive to get into the space. And then a lot of the way they're writing these laws in a lot of these states, they're requiring you to have, anywhere from $250,000 to $4 million in the bank showing as working capital. You have to have, all these different things that, just a lot of people of color or minorities just don't have that accessibility to. And, I think that those are the main reasons why, a lot of minorities are not in the space. Those are the 2 main reasons.
So we're going to continue this conversation when we come back from break. We're talking with Al Harrington, one of the great players in the NBA, and more importantly, one of the great advocates for cannabis today. We will be back on the Green Rush after this.
More Green Rush coming up after we roll through our sponsors.
Oh, let the marijuana llama tell you something now about a game for your phone gonna make you say, wow! The game's about the game of growing cannabis for cash. Grow the seed, sell the bud, put the savings in the stash. Little by little, your empire grows large. Put the big celebrities inside your entourage. You can choose to play with Snoop or me or Cheech and Chong, Cypress Hill, Willie Nelson, Wiz Khalifa with a bong. The name of the game is Hemp Inc., that's the point. Download and play while you light yourself a joint. The business of cannabis should be no crime. Hemp Inc. is even hot-proofed by the man who run High Times. Oh yeah? Get it on Android and iOS today. Marijuana llama out. Got to tend to me own crops, you know. Money don't make itself. Hemp Inc.
Strainwise Consulting is the most sought-after consulting company for cannabis business applications and management contracts. We consulted on the first recreational license in the world and have had an over 95% success rate on applications submitted. The industry is growing at such an exponential rate that building a powerful and lasting cannabis business is a #1 priority. Here's Strainwise's Sean Eubanks.
In our first 5 years, we branded and supported 9 medical and recreational marijuana dispensaries and approximately 160,000 square feet of sophisticated and efficient product cultivation.
Strainwise Consulting has the experience and expertise to guide you through the process.
The next generation of vaporizers has arrived. Vuber vaporizers are blazing the way with unparalleled technology for oil, concentrate, or dry flower pens. Providing unsurpassed customer service and expert craftsmanship, Vuber vaporizers use cutting-edge technology, providing a power-packed, smoother vapor with a lifetime guarantee. Experience vaporizing the way it was meant to be. The Vuber way.
Banking and Buds, understanding the business of cannabis. Welcome back to The Green Rush, only on CannabisRadio.com.
And we're back. We're talking with NBA legend and cannapreneur Al Harrington. And Lewis, I'm going to jump around a little bit because I have a question that I want to ask. The cannabis use, and it kind of pivots off of what we were just talking about. Cannabis use across all society tends to be equal. So the rates of cannabis by whites, African Americans, Latinos, Asians are all basically the same, but the rates of incarceration are so incredibly skewed. And you cited this in your Players Tribune story that African Americans are something like 4 times more likely to be arrested for non-violent cannabis crimes than whites. What do you think should be done to address this, and where do you see yourself in taking leadership of this type of issue?
Well, I mean, obviously, the first place we could start is by legalization, because make it not a crime to actually be able to have cannabis. At the end of the day, this is medicine. This helps people with a lot of different issues. Range from anxiety, depression, people that have that are really sick with epilepsy. It's just so many things that this plant actually helps. So is one legalizing it, and the war on drugs is just, it really sucks because when you think about it, I mean, there's a lot of kids that these charges of people having 4 or 5 nickel bags of weed, and now it's legal in other states where you can grow it, by the thousands of pounds. So, this biggest thing is just our country, find a way to get on the same page. I think rescheduling the drug so that we can now get the testing done and different things like that. And then eventually we get to the point where, it's like liquor. We just go through this prohibition period. But, you think about, all those arrests, and, to me, I call marijuana somewhat of a poor man's, it was considered a poor man drug. I don't call it drugs anymore. I really call it medicine or flower, different, or cannabis in general. But, you think about all the arrests, they're all in the ghetto, like where people literally have nothing. But then, some of my, guys I've done joint ventures with and different things like that, they tell me they've been smoking weed since, they were 14 years old. And then when they were in college, they were the biggest drug dealers in college. And then if you think about that, have you ever heard, like, I pay attention to the news and stuff like that. There's never no huge raids or busts on college campuses. You know what I'm saying? But you go into the worst part of Baltimore, the worst part of New Jersey and different things like that. And there's all these raids and different things like that. So it's just about just, just flipping the whole narrative in general and just, allowing this plant to be the amazing plant that it is, and for everybody just to change get more educated to realize that this is not a drug.
So you grew up in a tough part of New Jersey, not far from where I live, but I live in a much nicer area than Orange, and you went to high school in Elizabeth. How are you reaching back into those communities to help them through cannabis? To help the young black kids in Elizabeth or in Newark or Orange to see the opportunities as opposed to the challenges.
Well, obviously that's something that we're literally just starting to work on. Just because New Jersey they have a governor that's marijuana friendly and is looking like a lot of the rules and stuff are going to change there so that cannabis will be allowed. So, for me, the biggest way to help is, number one, is, obviously giving back to the community, just and giving back to these communities where the war on drugs was heavily, affected, and for me, trying to give these kids jobs and different things like that to work in this industry, because they have a real passion for this plant, and it's weird because, even I grew up this way. I felt like growing up that, when you smoked marijuana, you was unmotivated. You just wanted to sit on the couch and have the munchies and different things like that. And now I look at it today in 2018, I run a cannabis company that's a pretty big company, and I use, and that it never stops my motivation. It, like I said, it actually helps me. It gives me a better quality of life. So it's just about educating the kids and like I said, just pretty much giving them an opportunity to be a part of this industry, especially because I feel like, this whole industry was founded on their backs or their parents' backs or their family members' backs, because they're all the ones that are behind bars behind this. And now we look at, at this point in 2018, where, like I said, there's so many huge companies out here that is, gaining from this industry.
You've told the story about your grandmother, Viola, widely. And I'm sure she looks like an amazing woman, and how she used cannabis to initially treat her glaucoma. And you even named one of your companies, Viola Extracts, after her. Can you talk a little bit about what that company does? And also, can you talk about the impact that those products have had on the patients who are using it?
So Viola Extracts was founded in 2014 in Denver, Colorado. After I saw what happened to my grandmother and how it affected her, and immediately on me just made her better, gave her vision to see again. I started doing a lot of research, and I read how cannabis helps people, like I said before, anxiety, depression, different things like that. Kids with epilepsy, kids that have seizures, different stuff. So when I saw that, it inspired me to try to help other people. So my cousin, who's my business partner, he moved to Colorado. And we started growing as caregivers. So we were growing cannabis for cancer and HIV patients only. So, we grew for them specific strains that helped them with the issues that they were dealing with. And that's how we learned the business. In 2014, Colorado pretty much, ended the caregiver model for the most part and made you decide you had to become a company. So we sat down, we talked about it, and we just realized that our inspiration, what brought us there, was Viola. So we started that company. And, when we first started the company, obviously we were selling flower, but the one thing that I realized that was like the real medicine was in concentrate form, because it allowed people to be able to use it in so many different forms that will make them more comfortable using it. Because a lot of people, even my grandmother to this day, like, she medicates every day, but she doesn't like to medicate through a joint. She'd rather
right. Not everybody's
edible.
A smoker, right?
Yeah, she'd rather eat an edible, different things like that. So what we did was we started Viola Extracts, and with extracts, that means that we can pretty much make any type of product. That what we do in-house is we grow everything to extract. So, most companies extract just from their trim and different things like that. But for us, we use the whole nug. We use whole nug extraction. So we make product that is super high quality and super consistent. Consistency is everything. And we try to give people the best medicine that we can give them at all times. We offered live resin, shadow wax, crumble. We just started our vape cart line. We're actually now starting to sell flour. Believe it or not, just because there are some smokers that do actually still enjoy flour. So, and it also gives us a way to show a lot of our patients and our customers their starter material, just to see how amazing the flour is that we actually put into that machine to actually turn into these concentrates. So, for us, for me, like my moniker is almost like, I won't sell anything on the market that is not good enough for my grandmother. So for me, that means that it's always super high quality, the best thing that I can find at all times. And
is her picture on the packaging?
She is not. No, I did not put her picture on the packaging.
Well,
I did not. We thought about it. It's funny when we were going through picking out the pack, our logo. We had a couple of them that it was never her face, but it was just like grandma's on the packaging. But then I just thought about, as we evolve as a company and different things, and stuff like that, we probably will have to get away from that, to appeal to the masses. So if you've seen our logo, we love it. It's been amazing, and just moving forward.
So you talked about your operation in Denver, and you've got operations also, I believe, in Florida, California, and Oregon. And you've talked about expanding to Jamaica. And I kind of want to talk about, you put on your business hat for a second. There's a lot of, you went straight out of high school into the NBA. Given your career path, what has best prepared you to becoming this cannabis entrepreneur? What lessons have you learned through your life on the court, your life on the road, that are applicable to the weed business?
Well, the thing I took from the court is work ethic. I started playing basketball as a freshman in high school, and I came out of high school. I went pro out of high school. So I'm no stranger to hard work. And I know how much work it took for me to get that good in, 2.5 years to be considered an NBA player and got drafted and played 16 years. So for me in this industry, I feel like there's no company that's going to outwork my company. We get down to it. I wake up thinking about Viola. I'll go to sleep thinking about Viola. So, from a work ethic standpoint, that's what I got from basketball, just knowing that, you get out of it what you put into it. And from that standpoint, I'm going to put everything I got into this industry because I know that we can be one of the winners because I know what we stand for. I know the products that we make and the fact that we're really out here trying to help people and change people's lives. From a business standpoint, I learned a lot from my financial advisor, my first one that I had, because I'm first generation money from my family. No one's in my family, I think, until I became a pro, probably even made six figures. So a lot of times you don't really have nobody, at home or different things like that to really teach you business acumen and practices and different things like that. But the financial advisor guy that I had, his name was Bill Wilcoxon. He really taught me how to really look at deals, do due diligence. No matter what hairball scheme idea I bought him, a friend that told me, he always made me do research on it myself, and then tell me, now, do you think that's a good idea? A lot of times I'm like, no. So
wait, so you actually, because most guys talk about how their advisors rip them off. You're singing his praises, which is relatively rare in the professional athletic space.
It's extremely rare, extremely rare. We don't work together anymore just because he's very conservative. He's from Lexington, Kentucky, so I call him like a good old boy. And so
if you were investing in bourbon, it would be a different story,
exactly,
right?
Or tobacco.
Or tobacco, right? He just could not wrap his head around. He just thought I was going to get him locked up.
You just got to get him high, man. Just get him good and high, and he'll get it.
Yeah, he was just like, "Look, you're not going to get me arrested. We got to separate." So it didn't work out long term, but believe me, the foundation that he laid has been amazing. And, that definitely gives me a lot of my, business savvy. And just to correct you, the states that we're in right now, currently, we're in Colorado and Denver. We're in Falls City, Oregon. We're in Detroit, Michigan, where we just applied for our licenses. And then we just did a joint venture partnership here in California that's going to bring us to California, Arizona, and Nevada by the end of 2018. And then internationally, we're working on the deal in Jamaica. And the deal in Jamaica is probably going to end up bringing us into Canada as well.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you for correcting us there.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, let's take a quick break. We're talking with the great NBA pro Al Harrington, and cannapreneur and investor and founder and all of those other good things. We'll have a whole list of your cred in our show notes. So we'll be right back.
More Green Rush coming up after we roll through our sponsors.
Introducing Blue Moon CBD, straight from the bluegrass of Kentucky. With our special nano emulsion process, you'll not only get the best CBD available, you'll get more of it. Not all CBD is the same. It's your body. It's your choice. Get relief from inflammation, anxiety, and stress. Go to www.bluemoonhemp.com and use code HEMP420 for a 20% discount on your order. Balance your body. Balance your life. Make it Blue Moon CBD. The smoke is rising, and the next crop of podcasts devoted to cannabis providers and enthusiasts are ready to be harvested. Welcome to the Cannabis Radio Network, founded by respected rainmakers who have been producing award-winning podcasts for over a decade. Industry headlines, business updates, medical reports, marketing, and e-commerce education rolled up perfectly for your consumption. Let's grow together. The Cannabis Radio Network. CannabisRadio.com.
Ignite the conversation on some trending topics along the Cannabis Radio social media network. Join our crew of thousands on our Cannabis Radio page on Facebook or at Canna Radio, CANNA Radio on Twitter. Plus, look for our Facebook and Google Plus pages for all of our original programs and connect with Dr. Dina, Kyle Cushman, Dr. Mitch Earlywine, Nurse Heather, Doc Rob, the hosts of Ganjapreneur, and more. Connect with the growing Cannabis Radio social crusade at Canna Radio on Twitter or search for Cannabis Radio on Facebook, Google Plus, and Instagram and grow with us.
Banking and Buzz, understanding the business of cannabis. Welcome back to The Green Rush, only on CannabisRadio.com.
So we are back with Al Buckets Harrington, talking cannabis, the NBA, and his grandmother. So as we talked about, you're from New Jersey, and it looks like New Jersey is close to becoming an adult use state. A recent poll shows that nearly 60% of voters in the Garden State want to end the prohibition. What do you think that impact will be on cities like Newark, Orange, Camden, Elizabeth, where there are massive numbers of African Americans who are incarcerated in the Garden State? I mean, what do you think is going to change in those cities?
I think it's going to, number one, give a lot of those cities opportunities. So, the one thing that I want to go out there and lobby for is that those cities really open up to cultivation, manufacturing, and even retail. Because, I firmly believe that I would much prefer a friend of mine to, go to a dispensary, buy him an eighth of OG Kush, or buy him a couple edibles, take those edibles and go home and chill out with his family and be mellowed out and just cooling, compared to him going, drinking liquor, being violent, getting behind the steering wheel, different things like that. So I just feel like that it will, one, give the community an alternative way to deal with stress and different things like that. And at the end of the day, there's no liquor companies or anything opening up any opportunities in any of these ghettos or any of these hoods. But cannabis can do that and give guys a different option and give them more opportunity to thrive.
Your interview with David Stern was really interesting, and we'll post a link to it in the show notes. You seem to have persuaded him on the benefits of cannabis. Did that conversation surprise you?
It didn't, because it did a little bit. I'll tell you why. I mean, I met with him 3 different times to kind of educate him. Just every time we sat and talk, and David's a very, very busy man. Like literally, you get 15 to 45 minutes max with him at a time. And every time, first time it was a 15-minute meeting. Second meeting, it was 15 minutes on his schedule. We talked for an hour. The second time, he gave me 30 minutes. We talked for an hour and a half. The time for the third meeting, he was like, "There's no time limit. Let's just talk." You know what I mean? So he was very open to it. At first, he was totally against it. He's like, you just want to get high. And guys just want
Hold on. The guy must have been high to approve the Nets trade the Celtics, because there's no way that he was sober when that went through.
Right. Probably, but he didn't fess up to that. But he was definitely just like, guys just want to smoke and this. And then I gave him my story. I told him about my grandmother's story. I told him about some of the patients we've helped over the years. You know, how we had, you know, a patient that had 150 tumors on his lungs, and we produced Rick Simpson oil for him, and the doctor told me he had 6 months to live, and that was 2 years ago. He's still alive and no tumors on his lungs. So when I start telling him all those stories, and I let him read some of the testimonials from some of the people that we've helped, and he was just like, wow, this is a real option. We need doctors to now get involved so that we can really make a scientific decision more than just us guessing or a case-by-case type of thing. So when we had that discussion and on camera, I had no idea that he was going to sign off on it like that. I promise. And it's funny, most people all say, well, how much percentage does he own of your company? And I'm like, he owns none. Like, you know, he really, I think I pulled at his heartstrings, and I think I gave him enough information that, you know, David's a lawyer at the end of the day, and he's not going to say anything that he doesn't mean, you know, and for him to say that to me spoke volumes. And obviously it spoke volumes because, you know, I've had stories of people telling me, like, in college, in the colleges that they go to, like, you know, that video is like one of their, I don't know if it's called a thesis or what, you know, I didn't go to college. So it's like something that they, you know, they talk about the video, have kids write up on the video and different things like that. So we're making strides, and David was amazing to that. And he's always been a pioneer. And I think that, you know, by him saying that, that's definitely going to, you know, help me be able to move this thing forward.
So, Al, we would love to talk to you for hours and hours, but we're going to be respectful of your time. And we are now at the segment that everybody's been waiting for. It's Puff, Puff, Pass. So we're handing it off to you, my friend. 2 puffs, 2 things that you like about the industry, and the 1 thing that's driving you absolutely nuts. 2
things I love about the industry?
Yes, sir.
And 2 things I don't like.
No, thing, just one thing.
1 thing, okay.
1 thing you don't.
2 things I love about the industry. 1 is that we are on the forefront of changing the way people medicate themselves. And this prohibition is going to have way more meaning than the liquor one, because we're about to get a product accepted that's going to be able to heal the world.
Amen.
Second thing is that I love about the industry is that I don't know that we in the industry, that it's an industry. Just that, you know, that
crazy, right?
Like literally, I grow pot and I sell it legally, and not only are we able to make money, but we're helping a lot of people. So those are the 2 things that I love about the industry. 1 thing I don't like about the industry is what I don't like about the industry is the bad actors, the people that are just in it for the short term, just trying to get money grabs, different things like that. I think the industry is big enough that we all can play in it. And I just think that every time we have a bad actor, you know, it's like one of those things we could take 100 steps forward, but 1 bad actor could make it be 150 steps back. So if everybody could just get on the same page, just all try to just do it the right way, I just think this could be just a beautiful thing for everybody.
Wow. Well said. So we have been chatting with Al Harrington, the former NBA great and now amazing cannapreneur. To keep up with Al, check out his company, Viola Extracts, which is Viola, Viola, extracts.com, or on Twitter, which is at Viola Extracts, and Instagram. You can check out Al at Al Harrington. It's ALHARRINGTON 3. Thank you so much for joining us today, Al. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Wait, we have 1 last question.
Go ahead.
Who do you have winning in your bracket?
You know what? I didn't even know the tournament started until last night. So I missed the whole bracket thing. I'm too busy.
Wow.
But if I had to pick, I would pick who's good? Duke. Are they still in it?
Yeah.
They're still in it. That's a bad choice. It's a bad choice. It's all the Big East shit, man. They got 3 number 1 seeds. So, and always a special thanks to Brasco, Over the Top Rope, and Nick Opich, our 2 producers. Without them, you guys wouldn't be hearing this. You would probably be just hearing a lot of buzzing because of the feedback on my equipment, which is always annoying. And Al, we would definitely love to have you back in a couple of months just to catch up. We really, this was really fascinating.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And anytime. I'm always ready and willing.
Well, are you going to any of the upcoming shows like MJ Biz or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll be at the MJ Biz. I'm also going to go to the one up in Boston. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, I'm going to start making my rounds. I'm going to eventually start getting around doing a lot of the panelist stuff as well. So
nice.
Look for that in 2018 for me to be more vocal at a lot of those events.
Great. Well, we'll probably see you there.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. Take care.
The opinions expressed on this CannabisRadio.com program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of CannabisRadio.com. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without proper consent of CannabisRadio.com is prohibited.